She stood tall, a picture of grace, even as the whispers followed her like a shadow. Nicole Murphy, the woman who once shared a life, a name, and 5 children with one of Hollywood's biggest stars, Eddie Murphy. For years, the question lingered, sharp and persistent. How come you still have Murphy? And her answer, always delivered with a defiant pride, was simple. I earned my name. I deserve my name. I have 5 children with that name. It sounded like a woman moving on, embracing her past while forging a new future. But behind those public statements, behind that brave smile, a different story was unfolding. A story of heartbreak, humiliation, and a truth far messier than any tabloid headline could capture. Because whispers say Nicole never wanted that divorce in the first place. Allegedly, she was forced into it, pushed to her breaking point, not just by Eddie's constant stepping out, but by something far more insidious. Something that involved a name that kept popping up, a name that would haunt their marriage for decades: Johnny Gill. Now, nobody's saying men can't be good friends, but the way Eddie and Johnny were moving together had folks raising their eyebrows for years. Matching jewelry? Yep. Word is they rocked identical bracelets like a secret signal. And then came the bombshell. Johnny supposedly took a lie detector test just to shut down rumors that he and Eddie were more than just friends. Imagine being Nicole, watching your husband's so-called friendship get so questioned that it required a polygraph test. That's not exactly the recipe for a happy marriage. It was a public spectacle, a desperate attempt to prove something that to many felt increasingly obvious. And here's where it gets wild. Word on the street is Nicole herself started to believe there might be some truth to all that chatter about Eddie and Johnny. Because the things she allegedly saw and heard during her marriage were way too much to just ignore. See, before the Johnny rumors ever blew up, people had already been giving Eddie the side eye over the kinds of situations he kept finding himself in. Sure, Eddie paraded around with a full lineup of women, Hollywood actresses, models, you name it, and he's got all the kids to prove it. But insiders swear that all those high-profile romances were just a smokescreen for what Eddie was really into. And then came the scandal that almost ended his career. Back in 1997, Eddie was cruising through West Hollywood around 4 in the morning when police pulled him over for what was supposed to be a simple traffic stop. But it was far from routine, because in that car was a 20-year-old transgender escort named Octavia Saint Laurent. The revelation sent Hollywood into a frenzy. When police pressed him, Eddie brushed it off, saying he was just helping someone in need. But come on, that explanation never sat right with the public, especially when folks realized Nicole and the kids were out of town at the time. To many, it looked like Eddie had a whole secret life playing out in the shadows while his family was away. And that single scandal left a permanent mark on his reputation. And who could ever forget what Octavia Saint Laurent had to say about Eddie? Octavia was bold, outspoken, and proudly living her truth as a transgender woman. She never held her tongue for anybody. Word is, she and Eddie allegedly had a little thing going on, but she was furious at the way he kept her in the shadows, like he was embarrassed to be seen with her. Octavia didn't stay quiet though. She called him out with her whole chest and basically dared Eddie to deny it, saying straight up she wasn't lying about their situation. Now here's the kicker. All of this was happening while Eddie was still married to Nicole. Can you imagine? The tabloids went crazy, and the streets started buzzing about what was really driving Nicole out of that marriage. When the divorce papers hit, whispers leaked that one of her breaking points wasn't just Eddie's late-night scandals, but also his too close-for-comfort bonds with certain male friends. And guess whose name popped up in that mix? None other than R&B star Johnny Gill. Those Eddie and Johnny rumors weren't born yesterday either. They trace all the way back to the 90s, when fans couldn't help but notice how tight the two men were. From their matching accessories to the way they moved together, people swore it looked a lot deeper than just bros. And for Nicole, that cloud of suspicion was always hanging over her marriage. Even when Eddie's short-lived marriage to Tracy Edmonds fell apart, guess who popped up in the middle of it? Johnny Gill. Out of nowhere, Johnny started offering insight into what went wrong, pointing fingers at Tracy's mom, Lillian, as the reason for the breakup. That move was so bold it shocked everyone. But Tracy wasted no time clapping back. She told Johnny straight up to stay out of her business and blasted his comments as outrageous lies that were nothing more than a desperate attempt to polish his own image at her expense. Her statement didn't stop there either. Tracy added, "I would appreciate it if Mr. Gill would refrain from continuing to spread false gossip and lies to the public and allow everyone involved to move on with their lives. We all know the real truth." And that line right there sent people spiraling. What truth was Tracy hinting at? And why did Johnny feel so confident speaking on Eddie's marriage like he had insider access? The whole thing made it seem like Johnny's role in Eddie's personal life was way deeper than he ever admitted. And just when folks thought the chatter might cool down, another revelation hit the blogs. One of Johnny's ex-girlfriends confessed she had to end their relationship because she couldn't deal with how suspiciously close he and Eddie were. She flat out admitted, "Johnny and Eddie have always been very close friends, but I could not compete with their relationship." Imagine that, breaking up with your man not because of another woman, but because of his best friend. That only added more fuel to the fire around what was really happening between Eddie and Johnny. It was strange, almost too strange to explain. Sources swore that during Eddie and Nicole's marriage, Johnny wasn't just around, he was literally living in the guest house on Eddie's property. Imagine Nicole having to juggle her marriage while her husband's best friend was just steps away at all times. That setup alone had people whispering, and the pressure on Nicole must have been unreal. Now, the talk in the streets is that Eddie and Johnny weren't just close friends. They've allegedly been together this entire time, and only now are the dots starting to connect. Insiders claim they're still creeping around even today, especially at those elite Hollywood gatherings where everyone looks the other way. One former escort even claimed that at a wild Diddy party, he saw Eddie and Johnny getting down in the corner and said he was flat out shocked by what he witnessed. Johnny didn't take that lightly. He allegedly threatened to sue for defamation, but instead of backing off, the escort doubled down, insisting he had no reason to lie and wasn't hiding from anyone. That bold stance made the story even messier because in Hollywood, these kinds of down-low rumors rarely come out of thin air. Like people always say, where there's smoke, there's fire. And the flames around Eddie and Johnny's alleged relationship have been burning for decades. To many, it's impossible to believe all these stories are just made up. Why is it that nobody's ever seen Johnny Gill out here with a serious bad one on his arm? Not once. But what have we seen? Him right next to Eddie Murphy time and time again. And let's not forget Eddie himself got caught up in that late-night scandal when police arrested him for picking up a transgender escort. That arrest stuck to him like glue, and it's the piece of evidence people always throw back on the table whenever Eddie and Johnny's names come up together. So when folks say, "Oh, those are just rumors," I don't know, because I absolutely believe every single one of these so-called whispers about Hollywood's hidden relationships. These ain't new either. People been talking about Eddie and Johnny way before most of us were even grown. The industry has been buzzing with this chatter for decades, and every time somebody tries to sweep it under the rug, another piece of tea comes out. At this point, it doesn't even sound like gossip anymore. It sounds like the worst-kept secret in Hollywood. And the way fans see it, Eddie and Johnny's connection has always been a little too deep to be explained away as just friendship. Hollywood insiders swear this has always been an open secret. You didn't need to look hard. Everyone in the industry knew the whispers about Eddie and Johnny, but nobody wanted to say it out loud. It was like an unspoken rule. Don't question why Johnny always seemed to be right there in Eddie's shadow. Don't question why they moved like a package deal everywhere they went. The streets noticed it. The tabloids noticed it. and even some of their peers quietly admitted it behind closed doors. What makes it even wilder is how many people over the years have dropped little hints without ever saying the full thing. Farmer assistants, old friends, even party promoters have all hinted that Eddie and Johnny were more than just best buds. It's the kind of rumor that keeps resurfacing no matter how many times they try to bury it. And think about it. Decades have passed. Eddie's been married, divorced, and linked to all kinds of women. But somehow Johnny's name always creeps back into the conversation. It's almost like the bond between them has outlasted everything else. And that's why people are convinced the story isn't just some made-up Hollywood gossip. It's the kind of truth nobody in their circle wants to publicly confirm. For Nicole, this so-called open secret wasn't just Hollywood chatter. It was her real life. Imagine being married to one of the biggest stars in the world, raising a family, and at the same time constantly hearing whispers about your husband's special friendship with another man. Sources say Nicole was torn apart because, on one hand, she wanted to keep her family intact, but on the other, the constant rumors about Eddie and Johnny left her humiliated and drained. Friends close to her claimed Nicole would often put on a brave face in public, smiling and playing the role of the perfect wife. But behind closed doors, she was overwhelmed with the stress of trying to keep her marriage together, while Hollywood insiders and even fans kept throwing Johnny's name in her face. To Nicole, it felt like she wasn't just competing with other women. She was competing with her husband's closest male friend. And that's the part that really cut deep, because it wasn't just about infidelity rumors. It was about loyalty, about boundaries, about Nicole feeling like she was sharing her marriage with someone who should have never had that much power in the first place. Insiders still say one of the main reasons she finally walked away was because the Eddie and Johnny talk wouldn't stop, no matter how much she tried to ignore it. At the end of the day, this saga proves one thing: some Hollywood rumors never really die. They just keep resurfacing louder each time. Eddie Murphy has built an empire of movies, comedy, and family headlines. But through it all, the whispers about Johnny Gill have chased him like a shadow he can't escape. Nicole Murphy tried to stand tall, tried to fight through the humiliation. But even she couldn't outrun the noise that followed her marriage from beginning to end. From lie detector tests to matching jewelry, from wild party confessions to girlfriends walking away because of Eddie and Johnny's bond, the story has stretched across decades, and people still can't stop talking about it. Hollywood can call it gossip. Eddie and Johnny can brush it off. But the fact that this conversation has lived on for so long says everything. Fans believe there's something there. So the real question is, will the truth ever come out? Or will this remain one of Tinseltown's most infamous open secrets? Either way, the Eddie and Johnny story is locked into Hollywood history, and Nicole's heartbreak will forever be part of that legacy.